video, I'm going to give an overview and my review of Prym Ergonomic Needles. These needles are something that I hadn't heard about until someone asked me. That's pretty much how everything happens. I don't hear about things until someone says, what do you think of such and such? And then I take a look, and these are really interesting, and I thought it was worth a look. They are made by Prym, a German needle company. They aren't super readily available here in the US, so if you are a local yarn shop that sells them, please leave a link in the comments so other people know we can support local yarn shops. I ended up getting mine through a eBay retailer in the UK. But they have to be easier to get than that, even though it was a good retailer that shipped really quickly. Now these needles are different, very different. They won a Red Dot Design Award. It's an international design award in 2016 for how different they are. And in the Prym marketing materials, they say, you know, knitting has been done the same for the past 1,200 years with the same tools. It's finally time for someone to design needles that take the knitter in mind. You know, so they put these needles together and they are very different. I don't know that I love them, but I know they're perfect needles for some people, and so I want to let you know all about them. Let's go ahead and take a look. These are the circulars. I have the circulars and double pointed needles here, and I wasn't able to get the straight needles, but they do have straight needles. So let's take a look at what makes these so different. They are made of a synthetic material, very lightweight. The Prym marketing stuff says that they are lightweight and quiet needles. So if you're someone who doesn't like the clicking sound that knitting can make, these are for you. The first section of the needle is round, and then it slides into a triangle shape. And the idea behind that is that the stitches are going to slide more easily. After you get the size of stitch you need on the round part, they're going to slide more easily on the triangle part. And the cord is a stainless steel cord. I really like the cord. There's a little bit of plastic around it. And the cord is said not to hold a memory. So no matter how you store them in with your knitting tools, they will pop right back out the way they're supposed to. Now the weirdest thing about these is what they call the hook tip. There really is no hook on the end. It looks more like a drumstick. It's a little bulb on the end. And this is there so that you don't split stitches as you're putting your needle in. And absolutely, I think it's impossible to split a stitch while you're using these needles, because I knit up a little sample here, and yeah, for sure, the needle slides right in where it's supposed to go with very little work from me. So that is the biggest difference. Let's go ahead and take a look at the DPNs before I move on to my knitting. The DPNs, you know, are, like all DPNs, come in a pack of 5. And we have, just like with the circulars, the round part, the triangle part, and then the ends with a little bulb on the end. And what they're calling the hook tip. There's hardly a difference on these. Like the hook is really pronounced, the bulb is really pronounced on this size, but it's hardly anything on this smaller size. But I imagine they still keep you from splitting stitches. Now, one thing I want to talk about, I don't have to demonstrate, but I'll give you a link to the Prym marketing video that shows more about these, is the straight needles. And I'm using double pointed needles. These aren't like they're straight needles with the stoppers on the end. Something really unique that I think is pretty great is you have the pointed end and the stopper end on their straight needles. And when you need to put your knitting away, you flip one needle around and the two ends actually click together, and it becomes a stitch holder and needle storage all in one. So I totally understand why these won a design award. That's really pretty brilliant. I think that's great. Now let's look at my knitting. Let's look at the needle first. You see that there's some discoloration here. That's because this little bit of knitting I did discolor the needle. Doesn't affect at all how it works, but I know some people like to keep their needles looking perfect. I don't think this synthetic material is going to resist, especially the dyes in darker yarns like this. So here's my knitting sample. It's not blocked or anything. I did some garter, some stockinette, and I did some knit two together yarn overs just to see how these needles worked with a decrease. And first thing is this is really loose gauge for me. This is crazy loose gauge. In fact, I just was knitting the way it felt natural. My gauge came out much looser than it normally would. So let's take a look at these in action. Because these are a synthetic material, things don't slide as quickly as they would on a highly laminated wood needle or a metal needle. But this is an advantage to people who have a problem with stitches falling off the end of the needle, of course. And the needle does easily go right in, no danger of splitting the stitch. Things don't slide super easily, which is an advantage for some folks. Anyway, that's a little bit of knitting with these. You can probably tell by what I've said here, these are not ideal needles for me. But I know these have to be ideal needles for some folks, like beginners who have a problem with splitting stitches, stitches falling off the ends of the needles, or because of the ergonomic shape of these and how Prym is marketing these to be ergonomic needles, these might be a really good choice for people who are having some problems with their hands and knitting. It might be worth a try. Being worth a try is, these are worth a try for another reason. That makes sense? Did I transition well out of that mistake? These are worth a try for another reason because they are really inexpensive. The double-pointed needles were $10 and the circulars were $11, and that's having them shipped from the UK. They're much, much less expensive than most of the other needles that I've used and I've reviewed. So even if you're not sure about them, it's not a lot of investment to see if they're the right needles for you. Anyway, very innovative, very different for sure. Won the Red Dot Design Award in 2016. If you are a local yarn shop selling these, again, leave a link. Or if there's some other new product out there that is innovative and I haven't given a try, feel free to leave a comment and I will check them out and make a video. Anyway, that's my review. Good luck.